The US claims that it's going to withdraw all of its combat troops from Iraq. Sounds too good to be true, and it probably is. This is from RT. US agrees to withdraw remaining combat troops from Iraq, reports. And it says US has agreed to withdraw its remaining combat forces in Iraq at a date to be determined in talks with Baghdad and remain in the country solely in an advisory and support role against terrorists. This first sentence is problematic in so many different ways. First of all, if the US doesn't completely withdraw from the country, then effectively they're still occupying the country. Even if those troops are there as advisors, that the ability for the US to simply surge combat forces back into the country whenever they feel like it, that option will always be there. There's also a substantial number of private contractors, basically a private army the US keeps there that the US media never talks about and is simply a stand-in for official US forces being in the country. And third of all, an advisory and support role against terrorists. These are terrorists that the US itself created, armed, and funds, and either directly or through its regional allies like Saudi Arabia and Qatar. So in reality, nothing is going to change here. This is just rhetoric. This is just the US government pretending that it's trying to do the right thing in the Middle East. This is a game that they're playing. And while they're playing this game, somebody continues to attack Iranian merchant vessels. The US was mending ties between Israel and its Arab partners in the region, but these were countries that have been working with Israel for years and years to help the US execute foreign policy in the region. The proxy war against Syria, for example. And they did that specifically to create a united front against Iran. So we're watching all of this happen. We're watching the US claim that it's going to start fixing all of these problems with its foreign policy in the Middle East. But at the same time, their rhetoric doesn't match their actions. Their actions tell us that they're going to continue escalating tensions in the region, not only directly, but through their proxies. And one more thing I want to point out is this article right here. State Department says U.S. prepared to lift Iran sanctions, but warns of long road ahead amid indirect talks to revive nuclear pact. And this is about the U.S. claiming they're still trying to rejoin the Iran nuclear deal. This is a deal that the U.S. itself walked away from. Everyone else that was part of that deal is still at the table. Now the U.S. wants to return to the table, but before they do that, they want to make demands of everyone who's still there, which is unreasonable, and Iran refuses to do it. And no wonder, it's a completely unreasonable demand. All of this is rhetoric setting the stage for an escalation so that when the escalation takes place, the US can say, look what we tried to do. We tried to get out of Iraq. We tried to make peace with Iran. They're just unreasonable. They left us no choice but to do this. And if you don't believe me, that is exactly what it says in their own policy papers. The best way to minimize international opprobrium and maximize support, however grudging or covert, is to strike only when there is a widespread conviction that the Iranians were given but then rejected a superb offer, one so good that only a regime determined to acquire nuclear weapons and acquire them for the wrong reasons would turn it down. Under those circumstances, the US or Israel could portray its operations as taken in sorrow, not anger. And at least some in the international community would conclude that the Iranians brought it upon themselves by refusing a very good deal. That is the US-based, corporate-funded think tank Brookings Institution and their 2009 paper, Which Path to Persia. This was the plan from the very beginning, and you can see how step by step from Obama to Trump to Biden, how they're trying to bring this about. Hopefully the US never gets the traction that they need. Hopefully they never feel that they're able to minimize international opprobrium or maximize support enough to go forward with this, hopefully. And that's going to happen by people in the alternative media, state-sponsored alternative media and independent alternative media, constantly bringing this up and raising public awareness around the globe of what the US is trying to do here. If you thought this video was useful, please like and share. Think about subscribing to the channel. It's free to do and it helps the channel grow. Check the video description for the links to these articles. There's also ways you can help support my work so that I can continue doing videos like this. And as always, thank you for watching.